Let's go right to the phones. Michele Reagan, Secretary of State. Michele, what's going on, lady?
Drake.
Thank you.
I do not get.
Thank you.
People love.
I feel like I know exactly what the bump out music is for this interview coming up.
Well, you know what? We're just busy, and we love every minute of it.
So let's talk about, you've had let's call it a interesting learning curve, I think, as the Secretary of State.
Yes.
Is that a true statement?
Way to put it. But we had, if I could go back and change anything, one of the things I would change would be we implemented a lot of new stuff really quickly in a year where there was 4 statewide elections, which had never happened before. I probably would have held off and not done it in a year like that. But the good news is that we've got systems now that are just rocking and rolling, light years ahead of some other states. And, we've had 4 successful elections since that 2016. I call it the best year of my life because I never knew what I was made of until I went through that.
So I guess so you're talking about when you had the thing with of course, the presidential primary was a.
Well, what's interesting about that is I get this fancy title, Chief Election Officer, in the Constitution, but I don't have any authority over county recorders. So that was a county recorder decision. Although when you're in the elections community, we're all in it together. So all the TV cameras showed up at my place first, and then we said, turn around, go down to the county. They're the ones that pick polling places. So that was March. May was when my office made a mistake, and we had 200,000 publicity pamphlets go out 8 days late. So
why let's get it out. Why did that happen? And what's the fix?
Well, the fix has already happened, and that's that we got a brand new system, we have a new vendor, we have new employees. So we did a lot of changes, and like I said, we've had 4 successful elections since then with, nary a glitch. So we're pretty pleased. I think Arizonans can be very confident that our new system is much better, and we like it. So.
What is the safety and integrity factors of the Arizona election system right now? I know everyone has each county has their own systems on how they do things, and Pima County has been interesting to say the least down here.
Yeah, Pima County is interesting. That's a good word. Cybersecurity is probably the biggest issue that's facing everyone, not just our department, but every department in the state of Arizona, and then also nationwide. And so I'm on a national cybersecurity task force, which helps quite a bit, get some information from the FBI and DHS of different IP addresses to be on the lookout for.
Did the Russians come after us in 2016?
Well, a lot of people come after us, and that shouldn't be newsworthy. And we like to reassure people that that's just a daily occurrence, even in non-election cycles or times. It's not uncommon to get 1,000 hits on our system a day. And what that means is they're unwarranted intrusions. They're somebody looking for a hole to try to get in, and our system and our IT department blocks it. So that's, we're a pretty small agency, and to get about 1,000 of them a day, that just shows you how big the cybersecurity problem is. And it doesn't matter whether it's Chinese, Russians, Americans. It's a problem. And so that is, we call cybersecurity a race without a finish line, meaning that it's something we work on 24/7 every day, even when it's not an election time.
So let's talk about settling this lawsuit with the idea of showing proof of citizenship to vote in the state election. So the U.S. Supreme Court says that people shouldn't have to do that, supposedly.
No, not at all. Actually, Arizona's got some good laws.
I'm talking about the U.S. Supreme Court.
Right. So Arizona has some good laws on proof of citizenship, which have held up. The one that the Supreme Court case that Arizona lost, and this was a number of years ago, deals with, and it's kind of wonky, but I know you guys are wonky kind of people.
We are.
It deals with what happens if a potential voter fills out a federal form or a state form, because those forms are different. We happen to like the state form better because it does have proof of citizenship. But here's the rub. The federal government says if you get a federal form, you must accept it, and it doesn't have proof of citizenship on it. So that puts our system between two laws, a state law and a federal law that conflict. And what we lost at the Supreme Court is you can't treat voters differently depending on what form they fill out. So what the settlement agreement did is make it so that it's consistent, meaning that if you're checking ID or citizenship on the state form, you can check it on the federal form too. Now, the part of the settlement agreement that people are, I will say my opponent does not understand or likes to twist up, is that if we get the federal form and somebody doesn't provide proof of citizenship, they're what's called a federal-only voter. But guess what, Chris? That was already law. So we really didn't give that much, and we got more than we gave. And I always point out that this settlement agreement wasn't just Michele Reagan. This was our Attorney General. It was our Maricopa County attorney. We all signed off on this, and I don't think that either one of those people are going to do something that...
What's the name of the attorney? What's the Attorney General's name again?
Mark Brnovich.
That's right. I forgot him. Yeah.
So, I mean, anybody who thinks that Mark Brnovich and our county attorney Bill Montgomery in Maricopa aren't wildly in favor of these laws and conservative folks, they're putting something in their Wheaties I need to put in mine. So
because the real question is why do we have if elections are done on a county basis in states, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, not all states, but in our state, yes.
But why do we have a federal form at all?
I know. Well, so a number of years ago, the federal government passed the National Voter Rights Act, so it's called NAVRA. And in NAVRA was a federal form, and the thought was post offices can send it out when people move, and it's nationwide, and everyone has the same form. And Arizona and Georgia and Kansas came forward and said, hey, wait, we've got state laws that say you have to show proof of citizenship. This form doesn't have it. And so what these three states ended up having to do was a bifurcated voting system, which means that if you filled out the federal form, you only got a ballot with federal candidates on it. That practice is what the U.S. Supreme Court said, no.
Right.
So we were really stuck. And we're actually really, really happy with this settlement agreement. We're very proud of it.
But you still have people that can vote without, if they fill out the federal form, they don't have to provide ID, but they can still vote in an Arizona election?
No. So they have to, we still have voter ID at the polls. If somebody fills out a federal form and they don't show proof of citizenship, federal law says they can vote in federal elections. So they get a different ballot than everyone else.
What a country! If you gain re-election here, what does the second term of Michele Reagan look like? What do you want to get done?
Well, we want to build on what we've already started and implemented very successfully, which is being able to do almost everything online, and that is whether it's in our elections division or our business services. Tucson has an office, a little Secretary of State office there, but if you live in Yuma or Flagstaff or anywhere else besides Phoenix or Tucson, you've got to, get in your car and drive to the Capitol to file a lot of paperwork. And so we've made that process super easy in a number of our divisions, whether it's, libraries, archives, business services, all the trademarks, trade names. You can even take notary classes online now. So anything that we can do to make it easier for people to work with our Department of State, that's what I want to be known for. And we've got some neat stuff that's in the pipeline for coming out for 2020. Lobbyist forms will be all online, and they'll be doing their reporting online. That ushers in the ability to do gift reporting, which has kind of been a sticky subject at the Capitol, but reporting gifts in real time and online. So the new system we built is pretty awesome and is going to allow for people to really see the interaction between elected officials and people that are writing checks.
One thing that I was trying to look through your site on the Arizona Corporation Commission race, which is so insane. And when I got to one of the candidates, and it says, it has the little place, the link on how much money they raised from individuals and PACs and things. Mm-hmm. And when I click on the thing that's, it has a little line under it, which says it should send me, I'm assuming it should send me to the list of who cut these people checks, right?
It should, if the candidate set up their portal properly. That system is also new. And what we like about it is that the candidates get to set up their own page, so to speak. So they enter in their photo, their bio, their...
The problem I had is it wouldn't let me see the individual donations. That was the part that bothered me. So I tried several times, and I couldn't see the actual who stroked an actual check.
And you know what? You should let me know which candidate that is, and we'll go and fix their link.
It was Farisi.
Okay.
So if you could look that up for me and
Absolutely.
See, because that was something I thought I was a little.
I'm glad you mentioned it.
So I got one last question for you, and I'll let you go. You are a host of Republicans in Arizona who are endorsing Rodney Glassman, who's of course a former Tucson guy. What do you like so much about Rodney?
What I like about him is that he hasn't been on the commission, and he knows a lot about water, which I think is very, very important and lacking. I certainly don't know a lot about water. And so he's not part of that, whatever's been happening at the commission, which a lot of us don't know. And maybe some of it hasn't come to light yet. But a completely new person to just go in there and understand water and that isn't beholden to anybody.
So there's a lot of people concerned down here that he was a rabid Democrat, a pro-abortion, Planned Parenthood, and then all of a sudden he moves to Maricopa and he becomes Barry Goldwater Jr. So what do you tell those folks?
What I tell those folks is I didn't know that Rodney Glassman, and so I appreciate when people tell me about that and give me their input, because I wasn't in your neck of the woods when he was in office and more of a liberal kind of guy. He's got a host of people, I'm sure you've seen the list, that believe that...
I say most of them don't know how to use Google.
What's that?
Most of them don't know how to use Google. That's what I say. So you're not the first person I've asked this question, so don't feel like I'm picking on you.
No, not at all. And I've heard from some folks in Pima County that were like, what are you thinking? And this guy was, this or that, but that's just not the person I know. So I can only go on what I've seen since I've interacted with him.
Well, Michele, thanks for answering all the questions. I totally appreciate it.
Well, thank you for asking them.
She's got an easy one called votereagan.com if you want to check out more on what she's doing to become gain re-election in the Secretary of State of Arizona.
Well, we certainly appreciate your time, and you have a great day.
You too, Michele.
Bye.
All right, 7:24 in the morning. WakeUpTucson@gmail.com, DeSimoneHQ.com. We're going to go pay some bills and see some of our amazing sponsors that we have here on Wake Up Tucson. We do appreciate them all. Michele Reagan, the musical act that everyone else seems to get, but not her. I kind of agree with this one. I don't get too excited about Drake anymore.